for earth in the Greek is Greek's 1093 gay. The earth as a whole, the ground, the earth as a standing place, the main land as opposed to the sea or water, the inhabited earth, the abode of men and animals. The Hebrews earth is Strong's numbers 776, erects, the land, the earth, the whole earth, inhabitants, land, country, territory, district, tribal territory. Okay? So this will be in the minds of all the lands, of all the territories, of all the inhabitants of the land. Okay? This time will be in all of the land. Okay? So, let us read what began at the time of this judgment is the mind or soul of all the earth or land. Matthew 20:19. And shall deliver him to the Gentiles to mock and to scourge and to crucify him. And the third day he shall rise again. Okay, so Matthew 20:19 says nothing about him being under the ground, in a cemetery, under the earth, in the middle of the earth for 3 days before he rises. But Matthew 20:19 does say that he shall be delivered to the nations to mock him and to scourge him and to crucify him, and then the third day he shall rise up from the crucifixion, from the mocking, from the scourging, not from being under the ground for 3 days and 3 nights, okay, but from the scourging, from the mocking, from the crucifixion. Okay, so this is where we begin to count the 3 days and 3 nights. Right here. Right here. We're getting closer to the time when they was to crucify the lamb at the to sacrifice the lamb at the evening of the 14th. We're getting closer to that time. Right here in this white area is the time where the judgment began. Okay? So when we count from here to his resurrection, we'll see the 3 days and the 3 nights, but that'll be in a little bit, But this begins the judgment. The judgment, the 3 days and the 3 nights begins the judgment as is written in 20:19, Matthew chapter 20, verse 19. Okay, so it says here that he shall rise the third day after he is delivered to the nations. So when they deliver him for judgment and everything else that comes after that judgment, the third day shall he rise. But notice, he says nothing of having to be buried for 3 days, neither in this verse or in Matthew 12:40. All right, let us continue. John 19:14. And it was the preparation of the Passover, and about the 6th hour, and he said unto the Yahudim, behold, your king. Okay, the preparation is at the 14th, on the 14th day, at the evening in this little gray area. This is where they're preparing. Messiah's already been in judgment. They already brought him before Pilate. Now, during that whole time, they was preparing. There was people in Jerusalem preparing for the feast. Okay, so, excuse me. By the time they bring him up to be crucified and everything, it's already real close to evening. It's already very close to the day of Passover meal, Passover unleavened bread meal. All right, let's continue. John 19:31. The Yahudim, and that's another thing. This is another thing that I didn't include in here, but we have to be very careful when the scripture says the Yahudim, the Jews, okay, because they'll just generalize it as Jews. But we would have to go into the Greek interlinear and match up every little single word in the Greek, and some of those words are actually saying Jerusalem. It's not saying Jews. You see, but this is what happens when those words are just generalized. Then we get the doctrine that the Jews were doing something for Messiah, and so on and so forth. But what happens is we have to pay attention to the details. The enemy is in the detail. If we don't follow that detail, the enemy's going to come about. So what happens is we have to match each and every one of those letters in the Greek to see if they're speaking of Jerusalem or of the Jews as a set of people. Okay? Unfortunately, I didn't add that in here. I should have, but you can do the homework, so that's fine. Okay, John 19:31. The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day. For the Sabbath day was a high day. Besought Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they may be taken away. Okay, now when the evening comes in, thus far beginning the feast of Passover unleavened bread, okay, we would count one day from the time his judgment being in 1828. Okay, so his judgment, 1828 here, this is a day. This is daylight. 3 days and 3 nights. It's very specific that we follow the order that Messiah said. 3 days and 3 nights, as in daylight. Okay? So, from the time that his judgment began, right here, in the daylight, to the time of preparation, that's 1 day. This white area right here, 1 day. And then we're going to go into 1 night. And then we're going to go into second day. Then we're going to go into the second night. Then we're going to go into the third day. And then we're going to go into the second night. And he'll rise. This is when he rises. At night. Okay? Because remember, night just means dark. And it says in Scripture, Mary Magdalene came early in the morning while it was still dark. Okay? So, Messiah speaking the truth. Fulfilling Scripture. 3 days, 3 nights. All right, let's continue. John 20, chapter 20, verse 1. We already got into that, right? Okay. Okay. Oh, here we go. The first day of the week cometh Mary of Magdalene early when it was yet dark unto the sepulchre, and seeth the stone taken from the sepulchre. All right. So this is where Mary comes in, right here. It was early in the morning, but it was still dark. All right. So this is where Messiah rose, right here. Okay. Thus far, making the 3 days and the 3 nights. 1, 2, 3 days. 1, 2, 3 nights. Okay. He rose at night while it was dark. He rose in the morning, but it was dark. Okay? So, let us continue. This word here in the first day of the week, 45:21, the Greek's numbers 45:21, Sabbaton. And this means, excuse me, the 7th day of the week, which was a sacred festival on which the Israelites required to abstain from work. Okay, so that's basically talking about the Sabbath day, the weekly Sabbath. Now we see and understand, there goes your testimony, your witness to Messiah rising up on a weekly Sabbath. Okay, Mary of Magdalene coming to the tomb on Saturday. All right, Saturday morning, because it says it was morning. Okay, so let's continue, right? So, at the closing out of the Sabbath, Messiah came to the 12, right? So this is where we find ourselves, right here, at the closing out of the Sabbath. 8 days later, he comes back, okay? So at the closing out of the Sabbath, it begins Sunday. So right here, 9, this 9th day is Sunday from the closing out of the Sabbath. From the closing out of here, this is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,